Welcome to all the students in this presentation on the topic that is different theories and principles of management. That is, we'll see the topic with reference to Unit 2 for the subject Industrial Management, the subject code of which is RS601, and the subject is meant for BTech 6th semester students from all the branches. In this presentation, we will see the topics that as per the syllabus like Taylor's scientific management principle as well as Fayol's principle of management. We'll see the aim of scientific principles developed by the Taylors and the principle of scientific management, the techniques used to provide those scientific management principle, contribution in scientific management, advantages of scientific management principle, and criticism provided by different scholars of these scientific management principle. So to start with the presentation, first we'll discuss about the scientific management. What is the scientific management is? Friends, we know that the management is the approach as from the point of view of study was developed from the 17th century itself, and there are a number of scholars who provide their own theories with the advent of the Industrial Revolution. After the Industrial Revolution, the workers who are working in the organization, they produce the things for the manufacturer, for their entrepreneurs, and they usually are associated with the different kind of plus as well as minus. Plus was that the strength of the people were there so that they can produce the intended results for the manufacturer, whereas there were a number of negatives, like at that time the manufacturers were not concerned with the policies in favor of not consumers, as well as for the benefit of consumers, for the benefit of their employees, and also they were not keen, they were not alert the conditions, the working conditions also. The working conditions was very harsh in the organization from the workers' point of view. And so there were a number of approaches that arises and that are taken into consideration, and with the help of those scientific principles and managements provided by these scholars, the picture was entirely changed. And nowadays we can see that there are a number of rights which are provided to the trade unions, the workers, the benefit of employees, the benefit of consumers. They are arised through those scholars and their theories itself. Scientific management is one of the approach that is developed by the Frederick Winslow Taylor, and he was the one who introduced this approach in US and as regarded as the father of scientific management. And he developed the scientific approach and defined it as the art of knowing exactly what is to be done and the best way of doing it. Earlier to the scientific principles, invention of scientific principles, or the theory of related to scientific principle, the productivity of the organization was very poor. And because workers were not aware of, were not trained of the production process, about the production process and techniques, and also the manufacturer also can not take care about the welfare of the society as well as their workers also. And so tailors provide the scientific principle in place of the rule of thumb that was used those days. And he found inefficiency all around in the business and introduced a scientific management principle as the solution. And the solution, the management approach involves the scientific study and analysis of work in order to improve the loophole within the method, existing method. Another suggestion in the form of this particular principle is to apply the selection and training of the educated as well as capable workers and motivated workers, so that the efficiency of plant can be increased. Unless and until the worker will not be trained properly, then they cannot expected to do to perform better. Next is the principle involved the standardization of the resources as well as working conditions of equipment, raw material, and manpower who are working in the organization. Taylor introduced this only in manufacturing shop, but nowadays the application of the theory provided by the Taylor is not limited in the manufacturing concern only, but this theory is used now in service sector also for different shops. The theory is applicable in different processes and operations. The theory is applicable, and also for the planning, scheduling, budgeting control, and stock control, market research, and wages control. This principle are applicable, are relevant, and this theory is even applicable in the civil construction work also, for buying the raw material and selling the furnished goods. And when we talk about the aim to develop these scientific management principles, the aim was based on to increase the fact that the organization's efficiency was poor, just because the manufacturer were not concerned about the quality of the product, and also they are not uh, doing the optimum utilization. They were not concerned about the optimum utilization of the resources, and so the cost incurred in the production was more as compared to the revenue earned by the selling of the goods. And these were the loopholes to which the Taylor aims, and they aim on to increase the production by use of standardized tools, equipments, and methods. He also focuses on to improve the quality of the output by extensive research, by use of different tools, quality tools, and inspection devices. The cost reduction can take place by taking the rational planning and regulation as well as cost control techniques itself. This along with these aims, another important goals that are taken into consideration by the Taylor itself is to eliminate the avoidable wastage that can be avoided in the organization, and that can be, you can say, eliminate in the process. And also the Taylor focuses on to select and train the right people at right place in the organization by providing a kind of training, a motivation, right motivation, and right kind of direction in the shop floor. Next, an important aim is to improve the conditions of workers who are working in the organization by providing the incentives and bonuses schemes. Unless and until the bonus or incentive will not be announced by the management, the workers or the executives who are working, they will not be motivated enough to work in the organization. So payment of uniform wages to workers and giving incentives or work based incentives plan was suggested by the Taylor, the aim of which ultimately is to improve the productivity, improve the profit of the concern. The principle of the scientific management proposed by the Taylor was use of scientific method. As I told you earlier, there were no scientific standardized tools as well as procedure with the help of which one can ensure that production process is we can say foolproof. And so scientific methods were developed by the Taylor, and he emphasized on the training of the workers. The workers are the one who are responsible to produce the goods. Unless and until the worker will not be trained and motivated enough, they cannot be produced, they cannot produce the desired effect, uh, the intended purpose of the organization. Next, an important principle developed by Taylor is cooperation between labor and management. Unless and until the labor as well as management will not cooperate within the work at the workplace, then the organizational goal cannot be met. And so it is at most required to cooperate and to coordinate all the activities within the organization. Next is to maximize the output. And in order to maximize the output, the working conditions should be good enough. Unless and until the working condition will not be taken into consideration, the working conditions will not be good, then the good output cannot be expected. And last but not least, the principle of scientific management is the equal division of responsibility. One who is efficient enough is if provided number of tasks as compared to the one who is lethargic one, or who is not working in the organization, not properly working in the organization, then there will be a kind of conflict arises, and so there must be equal division of responsibility and work that was first provided, first suggested by the Taylor. Next is the techniques of scientific management. In order to apply those principles further, some techniques were suggested by the Taylors in terms of developing the scientific task setting. The task must be set in such a manner that they should be logical as well as rational. And in order to study the task, first work study as well as work measurement type of motion study, time study, fatigue study type of studies should be applied in the workshop, on the shop itself, so that one can be aware with the fact and figures that are applicable in the organization. In order to work in the organization, we can see the contribution in scientific management. The basic approach was to emphasize on rational thinking on the part of management, replacing the traditional thumb rule method. This was the basic contribution by the Taylor to contribute to emphasize on the logical thinking. Unless until the manager will not think in a logical manner, he cannot be not establish the rapport in the word, or in the eyes of workers as well as management too. The focus in the scientific management approach was on for the better methods, for the development of better method of the industrial work through systematic study and research. The work study is provided that kind of knowledge to the manufacturer, to the concern, to the entrepreneur who is running the organization. It leads to standardization of tool, equipment, material, and work method. Proper selection and training of the worker is also promoted. Another important contribution that is made by Taylor was to emphasize on planning and control of the production, leading to division of responsibility between the workers and management. Taylor emphasized on the proper planning and proper controlling at the shop floor. And he also suggests the division of labor, their work must be divided rationally, so that minimum conflict can be arises, or conflict can be removed from the workplace. Another significant contribution made by the Taylor is to develop the cost accounting, and this particular development is able to eliminate the avoidable wastage in terms of resources, and better utilization of the resources available in the workplace. Next, an important contribution, significant contribution made by this Taylor is to develop the incentive plan of the wage payment based on systematic study of the work. And for that, Taylor suggests that workers' work should be properly checked and their work should be properly uh, distributed, and for for the work rendered by the worker, they should be benefited in terms of providing the bonus, the fringe benefits, perks, etc. The focus was on the problem of fatigue and rest in the industrial work and rest in the industrial work. The Taylor in his study focuses on if the worker will be subjected to fatigue or the stress on the workplace, he cannot perform well, or he will not provide their 100%, and so the productivity of the organization will go down. And so he suggested to the manufacturer for the shift system and to move out the worker who is working for a long in the organization for certain time, so that in terms of weekly off, and so that he can energize and work more and more. Also, the contribution, we see the contribution of Taylor. He tries to improve the workers management relationship by proper coordination and cooperation. He focuses on the need for separate department to control various aspects of production, unless and until the production will not be divided into the different machine zones, different processing as well as assembly zone. We cannot assess the productivity as well as the progress of the work within the shop floor. And to do so, it is at most required to focus on the need of separate department. It is at most required to divide the department and individually see the performance of individual department and personnel who are working in that particular department. Next, we'll see the advantages of scientific management approach. The approach equally benefited for the number of stakeholders like employees, the employers itself, customers, and workers too. From the viewpoint of employers, we can say a better workplace can be created for the proper working of the organization, proper and managed way of organization, and proper selection and training provides qualified and skilled workers to the organization. Cordial relations are developed between the workers and management, which are good for the health of organization. The responsibilities of workers and management are clearly defined. It will help in order to provide the positive message to the employees. Efficiency of industry is increased due to the standardization of tools, equipments, materials, and work methods. This is another advantage to the employees who are working in the organization. Various resources are better utilized and avoidable wastage are identified and removed from the work line. This is another advantage by using the scientific management principles. And another advantage that is taken from the viewpoint of employees is to determine the work to be done by the worker during the working day, and if it is measured, then their bonus can be confirmed on day-to-day basis. For the point of view of workers, we can say some of the advantages are they get the opportunities for training and development, and after that uh, they can search work elsewhere too in the same kind of industries. The detailed instructions and guidance is helpful for the workers, which reduce the chances of accidents and errors in the production process. Also, the production linked incentives in the pay package are announced for the workers. This is good for workers and they will motivate. They motivate to do work, to do more work and qualitative work. Another important advantage that comes into the picture by the implementation of scientific principles on the workplace is the reduction in the fatigue due to the application of scientific methods of a job, and better working conditions and tools also. And so the health of the workers was improved. For the societal point of view, if we see the advantages of scientific principles, scientific management, they were that like uh, the products of better quality was delivered to the people who are living in the society. This raised the standard of living of the people who are living in the society, and also increased the productivity of not only the organization but also the society as well as country as a whole. With the implementation of scientific principle approach developed by Taylor, the society gets advantage, like they get the more and more goods at comparatively less cost, because due to the productivity, due to increase of productivity, when the supply will more in the market, the prices will goes down. And due to the technological development, due to scientific investigation, the better quality product can be served to the society and the people living in the society. However, there are a number of points on the basis of which the criticism of this approach was there, and it arises on the viewpoint from the workers, like the workers, it talk about speeding up of worker, and unless earlier the worker were in the rest mode, we can say, and they were doing their work with more peace of mind. However, another criticism made by the scientific management, for the scientific management approach from the viewpoint of worker, is boredom. Like worker who are working on a particular shop, they will get feeling of boredomness while doing a same kind of job. Next is there's no scope was to take the initiation in the shop floor, since all the people are trained properly. So it was criticized that there is no scope to take further initiative. There, one who is not trained properly and not educated enough, he remains unemployed. And this was the point given by the opposition, or the number of scholars who were opposite to the Taylor, who criticized the scientific management principles. Another point given by the people scholars who criticize this approach is the trade unions becomes weakened by using the principle of scientific management, because the working conditions were improved, and so there is no way out to the trade union to do uh, work only, other than work only. And also some people says that by providing such kind of skills and by improving the working conditions, the manufacturer can exploit more to their worker who are working in the organization. While from the viewpoint of employers, we can say that some of the points that were raised by the people, the scholars who were opposed to the scientific management principle, were it's an expensive process to improve the working condition within the plant, and to reorganize all the things, reorganize the schedule. Lack of financial control is there in the hand of management, by just because of the people are more educated and trained enough, and so it is impartial, impractical functional foremanship, where the functional foremanship were weakened by implementing the scientific principles. Those were the criticism provided by different number of scholars who oppose the principle of scientific management in an organization. In the same duration, Another scholar comes into the picture, that is Henry Fayol. He's considered as the father of management, and he initiated the approach related to general administrativeness. And he was a French industrialist who put forward and popularized the concept of universality of the management principle. He wrote a book in which he suggested number of managerial implementation, uh, managerial principles. Those were implemented in the organization in order to improve the condition of organization, not only from the viewpoint of the workers' condition and improvement in productivity, but also from the viewpoint of other departments like HRM, like marketing, like others stakeholders. He focuses on the improvement in administrative approach rather than improvement in the scientific approach only. Fayol divided a commercial organization activities into 6 elements, including technical activities, commercial activities, accounting activities, financial activities, security activities, and managerial activities. Fayol describes the practice of management as distinct from the other business activities, and he divided the entire business into 6 categories. We can say the technical area, the commercial area, the accounting, financial, security, and management approach. He argued that the management was an activity common to all human undertakings in terms of business, in government, and even in the home itself. Before Fayol, it was generally believed that the managers are born and not made. But Fayol changed this particular concept, and he provide that management was a skill like any other skill, like any other kind of education. One can get the skill through proper through acquiring the knowledge, as well as acquiring the facts of that particular about that particular management. And he provide certain principle that was famous by the name as 14 principle of Fayol. And these principles are: first is he emphasized on division of labor in the workplace in order to perform their task. Unless and until the proper division will not be there in the of the labor in the workplace, and they will not be categorized as per the work, as per the different kind of requirement of shop, they will not be utilized properly. The next and important principle provided by the Fayol is authority. The managers must give orders so that they can get the things done. Unless and until they will not have any kind of authority. Authority means to a right or a power to give the orders. The power to give the orders. Unless and until they will not have such kind of powers, they cannot deal the organization and the labor who is working in the organization. Another principle is provided by the Fayol is discipline. If the organization is disciplined enough, if in the organization the things are carried out in a disciplined manner, then only the organization can and fulfill their objectives. Another important principle related to the management principles provided by Fayol is unity of command. That is, each employee must receive instructions from only a single person. If the persons number of persons are provided number of instruction, a different kind of instructions, the people will get confused, and if they will confuse more, the more people will confuse, the productivity goes down. Another important point that is provided by the Fayol is unity of direction, that those operations which are in the organization that have the same objective should be directed by one manager using one plan. Say if the organization is engaged to manufacture a particular product, And so one manager should provide it, should deal the entire production process, so that however from the viewpoint of processing, it will be processed in different shops, but at their different shop, different managers, different supervisors will be there, but uh, a single uh, in a single direction, the product manufacturing of product is a may leads to a single direction, and that can be considered by the single manager, the one only. Next is the subordination of individual interest to the common goal. One should working in the organization from the fulfillment of his own personal goal, but from the viewpoint of organization as well as manager who is working in the organization, they have to work, they should properly train their workers, as well as they should see the pictures, the big picture, like their own goal as well as the organization goal should be synchronized properly. Unless and until they both will not be synchronized, or they both will not be the common one, then the worker will only attain his the worker will only tries to fulfill his own goal, and not fulfill the organizational goals. He will only time pass in the organization and take his salary, and he will not concern with the productivity, profits, and uh, growth of the organization. They should not be there. Remuneration, fair remuneration policies should be passed, should be developed by the organization in order to develop both employees as well as society in the organization. And next principle that is suggested by the FIOL is centralization. Yes, the approach, if the organization is small, then the centralization approach is better, and with the increasing of role of the people in the organization, decentralized approach is good. The hierarchy or line of authority should be there in the organization, where in the organization, orders should be passed from the one end, and work should be done by the other end. And next point is the order, that each and everything should be should be at right place at right time, and in right manner only. Next is equity. Equity means equality, where the manager who is working in the organization, he should ensure that one who is working in the organization should be treated equally, unless and until the post or the cadre. Next is stability of the staff. Unless and until the staff will not have the approach in their mind that their job is safe, they will not perform effectively. And the second last point is the initiative. One should provide the equal opportunities to take the initiative in the organization, so that they can give their best in the organization. And last but not least, it's a French phrase that is provided by FIOL, is esprit de corps, means to maintain the team spirit within the organization to attain the organizational goal. That's all for now in this particular lecture. I have taken the books into consideration as Dr. Ravi Shankar and T.R. Banga. Thanks students. Thank you for your kind attention.